Through over 15 years of games spanning now 3 PlayStation home consoles, Ratchet & Clank had reinvented itself continuously through the years to stay fresh. From early stories with more topical humor to later entries that unified the Ratchet universe into a cohesive sci-fi landscape, telling more ambitious, character-focused tales, the core relationship of a Lombax and a small robot was the anchor that kept everything flowing. After all, the franchise was named after them. Breaking apart their friendship, their dynamic, failing to showcase it in a meaningful way led to entries in the series, both in the game space and now the theatrical arena, that fell a bit short. Now with years upon years of storytelling under their belt, where was Insomniac to go next with their sci-fi duo? Upon the release of the Ratchet & Clank 2016 game, general audiences were left to wonder if the series would continue in this newly reimagined universe, or pick up where the last entry, Into the Nexus, left off. After all, while Ratchet had found himself content with his place in life, we still hadn't reached a full conclusion on what had actually happened to the Lombaxes. There were plans originally for Into the Nexus to reveal more about Lombax society, but those plans diverted to the saga of the Prague twins and the Nethers. A still worthwhile story, mind you, but it still left things open for a further installment to really dive into Ratchet's lost species. At the same time, Insomniac was given an early look from PlayStation on what was to be their next console, and what they were hoping to achieve on the new hardware. This got Insomniac's brain working. With more power and faster loading times promised by the new system, how could that be applied to a new Ratchet & Clank title? All ideas led back to the Dimensionator, the device that created portals to other dimensions that had been around the Ratchet series since Tools of Destruction for the PS3 in 2007, and a device that had been snagged by Clank at the end of Into the Nexus. Soon, the premise began to formulate for the new game. First of all, it would continue where Into the Nexus left off, instead of the reimagined universe from the movie and 2016 game. Second, leveraging the new power of Sony's PlayStation 5, Insomniac was going to push the series even further into the animated film realm, with environments that not only could load in faster than a player could spin a camera, but would be even more dense, more detailed than even the already stunning PS4 game. With the concept of other dimensions returning, a question was then asked that would form the basis of the new game's story. What if Ratchet had never met Clank? Things were ever-changing at Insomniac. Most significantly, the company would shed its independent status in the fall of 2019 as Sony would acquire the studio to the tune of approximately $229 million US. The Sony and Insomniac partnership would now be a permanent one as the studio would continue to bring its marquee titles to Sony systems from the current PlayStation 4 to whatever else was on the horizon. Like maybe a new console. On June 11th, 2020, PlayStation streamed a live broadcast known as PS5, The Future of Gaming show. Along with revealing the brand new PlayStation 5, various games from studios of all sizes from indie to AAA were showcased running on the new hardware. Not only was Insomniac's next installment in their recent Spider-Man game series revealed as a cross-generation title, one built for PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, but to everyone's surprise, a brand new Ratchet & Clank game was showcased. One instead built solely for the new system. The reveal was absolutely stunning and immediately showcased the incredible ambition Insomniac was aiming for with the new title. Officially revealed as Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Ratchet was even more detailed than ever before. Clank's metallic sheen featured realistic, ray-traced reflections, and, most notably, the heroes were shown leaping through many worlds and levels at a breakneck pace, each area loading in instantly to showcase what could be achieved on the PlayStation 5. A twist, Clank is thrown from a pirate ship the duo had landed on and ends up separated. Out of nowhere, a brand new character, another Lombax, appears. Sporting a mechanical arm and a hammer, this new unnamed character set the internet on fire with speculation on her role. Not only did Insomniac showcase a cinematic trailer, but an extended pre-alpha gameplay showcase debuted, making for a splashy reveal. The classic tried-and-true Ratchet gameplay was here, but new weapons like the delightful topiary sprinkler, along with advanced forms of traversal with brand new rift tethers shown off, placing anticipation for the next Ratchet title as a premier PlayStation 5 exclusive not to be missed by new owners of the console. Behind the scenes, Rift Apart would be developed by both of Insomniac studios in Burbank, California and Durham, North Carolina, just like the 2016 PS4 game. However, a relatively new creative team would be at the head with Marcus Smith serving as director, having previously directed Sunset Overdrive and Resistance 3 for Insomniac, along with Brian Horton and Mike Daly. Series writer since Tools of Destruction, TJ Fixman, had moved on from the company, so the two writers that would create Rift Apart's story would be Sam Maggs, who had previously worked on the City That Never Sleeps DLC for Marvel's Spider-Man, and Lauren Mee, a game writer whose previous credits included The Walking Dead and Batman games from Telltale Games. Previous games in the franchise had pushed the series' narrative to new places, delving into Ratchet & Clank's backstories and origins. So, where are we to go from here? Well, Rivet. Rivet was the answer. The mysterious female Lombax from the initial reveal trailer, Rivet as a character would be the symbol of the new narrative foray Insomniac would be embarking on with Rift Apart. Ratchet's dimensional counterpart who never found a companion like Clank and thus is more untrusting and nervous around people she's never met. The dichotomy of her personality with the well-established Ratchets would serve as a way to explore new depths of emotion from well-established characters to even brand new ones. So, while the interdimensional story and gameplay of Rift Apart would be the most bombastic, visually stunning to date for Insomniac, or hell, any game released up until that point, the internal journey of the character would still be just as important. Insomniac could anchor the gameplay and players' actions with a narrative well worth investing in that could dole out drama and comedy in equal measure, amongst the outlandish locales and characters of the Ratchet and now Rivet universe. The general assumption with the leap to new hardware is just more. More enemies, more bolts, more objects flying in every direction. And yes, while that was true and evident in Ratchet & Clank's past as always being a visual showcase on whatever PlayStation console they were on, the internal horsepower of the PlayStation 5 could now send players flying through different levels in an instant. A stunning technical achievement that would push the series to visual heights never thought possible before, and not being held back by previous generation technology.
This title is the first one where we made the content knowing it would only ever be running on the PlayStation 5. For this game in particular, I would say that we kind of just let our artists go wild and made some incredibly detailed objects and models and textures, and then gave ourselves the challenge to make it all run well.
As new trailers and first looks were released, the huge scope of Rift Apart became apparent to audiences everywhere. Insomniac was going big with this one. Harnessing the PS5's power, Ratchet and now Rivet were being thrown into huge situations with dozens upon dozens of enemies to fight, rich, detailed cityscapes to explore every nook and cranny in, and huge blockbuster action sequences with environments dynamically collapsing all around our heroes. The word awe-inspiring was accurate. However, the game was still Ratchet & Clank, yet the series was realizing and honestly surpassing what it meant for a game to look and feel like an interactive movie. Also, while the gameplay bones were largely the same, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, more traversal mechanics would be introduced to the series. Along with the aforementioned rift tethers, Ratchet would gain the ability to wall run and even utilize what was known as a phantom dash to dodge around enemy attacks and zoom across the void in the game's many platforming segments. It was a move refresh that was unexpected but much welcome for the series. Ratchet could even sprint now, keeping things from becoming stale. It had been nearly 5 years since the last Ratchet game, and Insomniac was here and ready to show how things could be plussed up for the new title. Narrative and gameplay always go hand in hand with most modern games, but Rift Apart would also take that a step further by integrating its own character arcs into even the mini-games. Glitch, a little spider robot program used by Ratchet to access various terminals, would get her own story arc of her own, learning to be confident in herself and realizing she's capable of doing more than she realizes. It's small touches like that that would serve as the backbone to the narrative themes Rift Apart would delve into. When it came to the overall story, beyond the dimension-hopping premise, not much was known about it. Ratchet and Clank would be separated. Somehow Dr. Nefarious was back to his old scheme, snatching the Dimensionator and causing the inciting incident for all the story's chaos, and Rivet, the new Lombax, would be coming in contact with Clank. It wasn't until the game was close to release that the curtain would finally be pulled back. In celebration of their past heroic deeds protecting the galaxy, Ratchet and Clank, retired from hero duty at this point, are celebrated with a huge parade recounting their adventures as hosted by Captain Quark, Skid McMarx, and Rusty Pete, all returning from past games. Clank presents Ratchet with a newly fixed Dimensionator, hoping he can finally find his lost Lombax family. Before Ratchet can respond, however, the ever-conniving Dr. Nefarious swoops in and snatches the device, opening portals hoping to find the dimension where he always wins. This leads to absolute chaos in the city, as Ratchet and and Clank work to get to Nefarious as dinosaurs, robots, and a slew of other things fall from the sky and attack the city populace. Nefarious has also hired the recently rebranded Goons for Less to stop the duo, though they too face opposition with the dimensional chaos.
Was that a kraken?
Or at least a very large octopus.
Ratchet and Clank reach Nefarious only for them all to get sucked into Nefarious's champion dimension, landing in the dystopian Nefarious City just as the Dimensionator explodes, separating the three of them and stranding them in this dark dimension. Clank wakes up to find his arm missing and his legs malfunctioning. He's discovered by the female Lombax Rivet, a resistance fighter actively rebelling against the tyranny of Emperor Nefarious, this dimension's much more successful doctor. Ratchet himself traverses Nefarious City in search of Clank, seeing him on Rivet's back as they escape the planet. Ratchet is able to meet up with the Resistance member Phantom, an alternate dimension Skid McMarx, and join the fight as a means of finding Clank. Elsewhere, Dr. Nefarious finds that Emperor Nefarious isn't home, and assumes his identity to hopefully defeat Ratchet, and now Rivet as well, once and for all. Unable to trust the robot, Rivet takes Clank to her hideout on the planet Sargasso, and after searching his memory banks, learns of the existence of Ratchet. Clank also finds he's able to interact with dimensional anomalies, meeting a monk named Gary who aids him in sealing them. Rivet helps Clank get in contact with Ratchet, and the two Lombaxes agree to work together to fix the Dimensionator and set everything right.
Wow. Another Lombax.
Landing on the planet Savali to find a blueprint for the device, Ratchet meets KT-7461, or KIT for short, a robot similar to Clank who has exiled herself to work with the monks after functioning as a war bot for Emperor Nefarious. She tells Ratchet not to be friends with her as she can malfunction and hurt him, that she's broken. But Ratchet assures her that they'll make a good team in repairing the Dimensionator.
You want to stay a team? You are very strange, Ratchet.
I've been told that a time or two. Team?
Perhaps. Just this once. Yes, I will try.
From here on, Ratchet and Rivet work across a variety of planets to gather all they need to fix the device, meeting up with various characters like the goofy Morts of Sargasso, along with Captain Quantum, the alternate Quark who has disguised himself as a pirate captain to hide from Emperor Nefarious, who finally arrives from his latest conquest and finds himself working together with the Dr. Nefarious we all know. Ratchet and Rivet, and subsequently Clank and KIT, finally meet with the now completed Dimensionator, which is unfortunately snagged by the Emperor, who decides to take the fight to Ratchet's dimension to conquer not just his universe, but all universes. Ratchet and Rivet fight to put a stop to him with the help of their interdimensional counterparts of all their friends, including a French pirate version of Rusty Pete known as Pierre.
My name is Pierre Lafer, pirate extraordinaire.
To finally put a stop to Emperor Nefarious' plans in an all-out war in Ratchet's home dimension. With both Nefariouses defeated and the Dimensionator working and safe, Ratchet and Rivet now have a method to find the lost Lombaxes as they, along with Clank and KIT, head out on their next adventure.
Is that us?
With the surface retelling, Rift Apart story is a pretty straightforward adventure with the usual wild locations and off-the-wall characters the Ratchet series is known for. But it threads the needle in such a way that it's a story that's satisfying for longtime series players and even newcomers if this is their first game in the Ratchet & Clank franchise. What makes it all work is the characters, specifically the game's best-kept secret, KIT. KIT wrestles with feelings of self-doubt and hatred of oneself that can be all too relatable. And the tragic story that KIT, back when she was solely a warbot for Emperor Nefarious, was actually the reason Rivet lost her arm, hits home as KIT learns to believe in herself and Rivet learns to trust and forgive, growing enormously throughout the adventure. The same goes for Ratchet and Clank, with the titular Lombax struggling to feel like he's ready to actually find the Lombaxes, and realizing that the journey is worth taking even if he's happy with his life with Clank and his friends. It all comes together with the series' signature shooting, platforming gameplay, eclectic planets, and bombastic action set pieces, making Rift Apart one of the grandest Ratchet & Clank titles Insomniac's ever created. When the game released in June of 2021, audiences and critics agreed. While the 2016 game was reviewed positively, there were still a fair amount of shortcomings due to it being tied in with the poorly received theatrical film. With Rift Apart, the praise was near unanimous. Compliments were naturally given to the game's visuals, as Rift Apart was one of the most visually stunning games of all time at release, and that's no exaggeration. Insomniac had always crafted amazing worlds across their development history, but Rift Apart was on a whole new level. The Pixar comparison that had always prevailed was apt. You really were playing an animated movie. The narrative too was also praised for really reaching emotional heights of films as well, featuring a narrative that was still hilarious amongst the more turmoil-fueled cast.
Password, please.
Why do I need a password? I'm the Emperor. How about I obliterate you instead? Ha 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 ha!
While we still hadn't gotten to meet the Lombaxes in full, Rift Apart definitely set the stage for more potential stories in the series, with little morsels and Easter eggs, like the Lombax-created Lorbs found on the planet Savali, doling out backgrounds on the Lombax's escape from Tachyon into another dimension, while also referencing a fellow PlayStation franchise or two.
And there were these creatures. One of them even looked like a Lombax, but he had smaller ears, a mask, and a cane, and I think he was pulling some kind of heist.
From a whole slate of new wacky weapons, dozens of new characters, and a heartfelt, funny story, Rift Apart was the refresh the Ratchet franchise needed, somehow towing the line for old and new fans, and opening up the Ratchet universe even more, with so many potential jumping off points for new stories it practically boggles the mind. Infinite dimensions, infinite stories, infinite possibilities. The real success came in crafting a story for everyone to enjoy.
We wanted to bring in new players to a franchise that has been around forever and has a ton of backstory, so we had to ask, how do we do it without doing a reboot, because you don't want to get rid of all the work you've done?
The cinematic story was also accompanied with cinematic music, as the franchise would receive new composers in Mark Mothersbaugh, a composer who had run the Gambit projects-wise from the original Nickelodeon cartoon Rugrats to Marvel blockbusters with Thor Ragnarok, and Wataru Hokoyama of Mutato Musica, a music production company co-founded by Mothersbaugh. The music duo would contribute to the gaming duo's adventures with a gorgeous, sweeping score fittingly as grand as the gameplay and story witnessed by players, and hey, maybe a show tune or two. From music to gameplay to story, as written by Sam Maggs and Lauren Mee, Rift Apart was a resounding success for Insomniac and Sony. Rift Apart would be the second biggest game launch for the less than a year old PlayStation 5, only behind Insomniac's own Spider-Man Miles Morales. After nearly 20 years of existence, Ratchet & Clank were still here to stay. Ratchet & Clank, the sci-fi comedy gem of the PlayStation 2 era, has exploded into gaming's most recognizable and beloved franchise of all time. Transcending the game space into other forms of media and merchandise, the Lombax and Bot have been everywhere, from movies to manga, and at this point there's no sign of fatigue, no sign of slowing down. Journeying through now 4 console generations, reinventing itself along the way, from programming, to writing, to design, to sound, to, well, everything. It's a testament to the talent of the Insomniacs, the creatives in every single department that worked hard to bring the universe to players everywhere, that should be praised endlessly from coast to coast. A crash landing meet cute, foiling the plans of an evil business tycoon, putting a stop to a rampaging corporate experiment, fighting a mad scientist and a pop star trying to destroy an evil, heavily merchandised game show, fighting the bane of the Lombax existence, discovering their past and finding their place in the universe, and now discovering even more universes and finding companionship with someone who's so similar yet so different. So many adventures Ratchet & Clank have been on, each memorable in their own way, saving the galaxy numerous times over. It's been an adventure for them and players for now almost 20 years. From the beginning, Ted Price had set out to create wonderful experiences in the home console gaming space. beginning with a company called Extreme Software, and later a game called Disruptor in 1996. Who could have expected that his game company, now and forever known as Insomniac Games, would reach such incredible heights? The gaming industry expanded and flew forward with technology at an incredibly rapid pace, and Insomniac has kept up all the while, crafting stunning worlds, memorable characters, and just fun experiences for players young and old. From a Doom clone to a purple dragon to a superhero and all the way up to Rift Apart, Insomniac set out to achieve a vision of positivity and diversity in story and character in the interactive space to create lasting memories for all that experiences them. To have a franchise such as Ratchet & Clank last through the majority of the studio's existence, with the franchise somehow nearing its 20th anniversary and still going strong, is an achievement to be celebrated. Video games are a product of a team effort, and even with small missteps, there's always been a strong force behind each Ratchet & Clank title to make it iconic in their own way. Video games themselves are a product still so new in so many ways, and to feature such a lasting franchise like Ratchet & Clank is simply put a stunning achievement. Through its history of highs and even lows, Insomniac's franchise truly belongs in the Hall of Fame of gaming titans. Now it's just a matter of where their story will go next.